there's two threads I want to pick up on what you're saying. One is, so you have approval of things coming up, climax and stuff. But then you're right, you can't stop there. You have to let it. There's a thing that we learn at completing the throw. So a lot of trauma is that the throw was stopped midway and it's stuck there. These are the things that become samskara. And actually, when you look at them, and then, all right, well, you'll go through the same experience, but this time let it finish. And that's when it loses power, because the energy is already, it's when the energy stopped midway. So that's one, the completing. And the other one, when you were saying, it was, it's, remember when they talked about you cannot selectively block and allow things, because if you block one, you block the whole thing. I only want to feel desire for this person, and I'm just going to restrict it, but then you restrict the whole, it's not the limbic system. You have to really open it, open the whole thing and let it do its thing, just surrender. Because once you can't just stop it, if you stop it, I don't want to feel anger, then the whole thing, you can't feel orgasms too, to the full extent, you know? It's like open the clear channel, you know? Like the clear channel.
Exactly. But that's why approval is so amazing, because you just in approval of the whole experience, whether that's anger or whether that's excitement, or you know, and then you know, through approval, through the practice of it, you start to experience that something's always emerging out of that. Sometimes you go into like deeper levels of the emotional charge, the samskara, but eventually you'll get to the stillness and the peace that's there. And then out of peace, and then peace is like, you know, Osho sort of says this as well. He says, like, the authentic you is the thing that grows naturally and expands through just awareness. And that's to me, that's authentic desire, like peace, freedom, empowerment, creation, beauty, love, by extension, then joy. These things are just expand, you know, and that opens up that bandwidth, that orgasmic state we're talking about, to use a different language. That's how it sort of seems to happen. But if you're not in like connection with the moment, and then you're trying to like get back to that place, then you're sort of short-circuiting it, and it's not going to happen.
And to add more language again, the more language we have, the better. Is this John Vervaeke talks about there's addiction, which is a big problem, and I think we're addicted to oil, we're addicted to consumerism, addicted to porn and all these substances. And addiction is really a reciprocal narrowing. So you narrow your world so much so that it only revolves around one substance or one thing, like profit, addiction to profit, addiction to hyperstimuli. But love is a reciprocal expansion. Like, I'm so big that I can forgive. You know, it's because the whole dynamic is what can I accept? What can I approve? And he talks about like how, like agape.
Exactly.
The Greek word is like different from eros. Eros is I want to possess someone, whereas agape is I love first, and by loving someone they become a person. It's like agape is like when you love a baby, it's not a person yet. You don't love a baby because you want to get something out of it, but by loving the baby, it becomes a human. It's like interesting because it's you're both expanding. The baby's expanding. I'm expanding as a parent. And
and that's really interesting. And you know, you just sort of like nailed something there. That's I found that is actually essential to that. You know, the practice of love, whether that's someone else or self-love, is approval. When you love someone, you're in approval of who they are with all their faults, and that's the same as self-love. You know, you're in approval of all your faults, you know, all of your doubts and fears and anxieties, you know, in all the ways that you're sort of in your failure. Like, you know, the 5 kind of core fears I sort of seem to come up for a lot of people is around fear of failure, fear of rejection. Fear of not being good enough, fear of not having any sort of being worthy, fear of, ridicule. And, when you practice self-love, you're in approval of all of those things that are in your experience, all of those fears. Because if you can't even just be in approval of what is, then you're never going to be able to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't be in approval of, the faults in someone else, then you're not, you're creating kind of a narrow thing for them to conform to, which, so you're only getting a part of that being. You're not going to get the full,
the whole thing,
being, like the possibility of that force coming through, then love you.
Yeah. Now that we're on the topic of love, another thing, there's this, I'm now actually slugging through his book on immanent metaphysics. It's Forrest Landry. He actually laid out his metaphysics it's very mathematical, but it's very deep. But one thing he says in the podcast I listen to is, love is that which enables choice. I just want to see what do you think of that. It's like simple,
totally.
but it's like boom.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of, if approval is the practice of love, the actual action of loving someone is being in approval of who they are. And then if out of approval emerges peace and freedom and empowerment, the other one that comes up is possibility, like creation.
Yeah, choice.
And there's a whole new range of choices from when you're in authentic desire. Like, there's so many more possibilities than when you're in a sort of very linear kind of goal, narrow-minded. It's if you're only loving a certain part of a person, then you've got a very narrow sort of, what you can get from them is going to be very sort of narrow.
Yeah, and it's almost guaranteed to disappoint, because they're organic. For sure, they're gonna exceed that boundary the arbitrary boundary you set. They're gonna go out of it, and then that will disappoint you, of course.
Yeah.
It's almost inevitable, right?
Yeah, and so, like, that love gives you, what's the saying again?
Love is that which
choice.
Enables choice.
Yeah.
So I always ask that, if I truly love that person, am I enabling them to have more choice? Yeah,
it's like, you're giving them,
it's very simple, but the more I think about it, it's like,
yeah, totally.
It's also for myself, like, and also,
and that's empowerment, by the way, as well. That's empowerment as well. Like, through giving choice, you're empowering people to choose.
And also sovereignty,
rather than control.
Yeah, and also sovereignty for each person, and also health. Because if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. You can't exercise choice. And I think it also applies to the environment. The more species we have, the more choices there. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
Are we enabling the environment to experiment more with evolution? Or are we just narrowing it because we just want corn? We're going to kill all the plants because we just want corn. That's narrowing the choices, right? Yeah. Or we just want, I don't know, canola or cows.
The only caveat I would add to that is what's sustainable.